We are doing a little fall landscape. It's got a pretty fall tree and some like background trees so we can practice that. It's also got some water so that we can work on doing reflections. It's really simple, but it'll teach you a lot. There are a lot of different techniques in this one. I'm gonna be using Canson 140 pound cold press paper for this. I will also be using my 24 color set, but we're not gonna use that many colors. If you have 12 colors, you're fine. And I have my 4 brush set, but again, like it's nice to have a big fat brush to do like the wash of the sky, and it's nice to have a little brush to do like little leaves, but really as long as you have a decent brush with a nice point on it, you'll be good to go. I'm gonna use a pencil to draw like one little tiny line. You don't even need this, but I'm gonna do it just because I know some of you will be more comfortable drawing it. And then I am gonna use my stick to do the trunk of the tree and get the wonky branches. This is something I've done in videos, tutorials that I've done online on social media. A stick is a really fun tool to be able to get those really weird shapes. If you don't have a stick or access to a stick, you can just use a paintbrush and that will be fine too. Let's paint. Okay, we're gonna start by mixing up some colors. We're gonna keep this sort of a natural fall color palette. I don't want anything too bright. I just grabbed, this is some of my indigo. So whatever your darkest blue is, that's what we're going for. And then we're gonna add the complement to that. So the complement to blue is orange. So we're gonna take a little bit of orange. We're gonna add that in, and that's just gonna tone down our blue so that it's not quite as vibrant. So that looks pretty good. I'm gonna add just a touch more orange in there. And let's add some more water in there too, to dilute it down a little bit. Okay, so this looks pretty good. This is what I was thinking on the blue. So we're gonna go with that for our blue. Grabbing some clean water here, I'm gonna make a little puddle here of yellow. And I don't want my yellow quite this bright, so I'm gonna take a little bit of this yellow ochre also. If you don't have yellow ochre in your set, you can tone down your yellow by adding just a tiny bit of purple. Let's just add just a little bit. That was too tiny. Add a little bit of purple, and that will tone down your yellow. Now we're gonna do some orange. So we're gonna make a puddle of orange here. So just grabbing a bunch of whatever orange color you have, and then we wanna tone it down. So we're gonna add a little bit of blue. And you're like, well, isn't it gonna make the same color as this? No, because this has way more blue and just a touch of orange. This is gonna have a lot of orange and just a touch of blue. So once we add that blue in there, it's gonna tone our orange down a little bit. If you do have this set and you have some of this burnt sienna, you could mix some of that in there to get that sort of rusty orange color. But if you don't, just mix a little bit of blue into your orange. I'm gonna go for this green here, and I'm just gonna make a little puddle. Now, we just want well, I just got green in there. That's okay. You just want any kind of sort of earthy green. If your green is not as earthy as this, and your green, let's say your green is more like this green, more like a green like that, and you want to make it earthier, you can just add just a little bit of red to it. And you can see just a tiny little bit will tone it down. Even with a limited palette, you can achieve a million different colors. So those are our colors, and we are ready to start our painting. Okay, just a heads up, I did go ahead and get fresh water because my water got very dirty while I was mixing up my colors. So anytime your water gets dirty, just go ahead and get some fresh water. You will be very happy that you did because you won't get muddied colors in your painting. But we're gonna go ahead and start with the sky. And I'm gonna use this blue, and I'm using my big brush. Again, if you don't have a big brush, just use whatever brush you have. And I want this to be pretty light. So there's quite a bit of water in here, and I'm just gonna add my sky in super quickly. I'm gonna do like, I don't know. This is a third top. It's more than a third, less than a half. What is that? It's almost halfway down the page, but I'm letting the color be more saturated up toward the top, and then letting it get lighter as it gets more toward the horizon. So you can also, if you've got your paper taped down, you can kind of pick it up and swipe across like this, and gravity will naturally sort of pull your paint down. But we're just keeping the sky nice and light. It's just a background. It's not really a focus in this painting. So we're gonna just leave it really simple. Now, if you want to add some clouds or something, you can tear off some paper and you can sort of like dab in some little clouds. But that's totally up to you. I'm gonna leave mine just like that, and I'm gonna let this dry. We're gonna do a little like land mass island kind of thing coming here off of the side. I'm not gonna bring it all the way across. I'm gonna just bring it like 3/4 of the way. And basically, actually this is the part that I was telling you I was gonna draw it in. So we'll draw it in so that anybody that feels nervous about it. So we're gonna go like this. Okay, so it's gonna be just like a little peninsula coming out here. And we're gonna go, this is a size 8 brush. I'm gonna go to my green here, and I'm just gonna start sort of filling this in. And it doesn't have to be perfect because this is like an island, right? Or a peninsula, or whatever we're calling it. I'm gonna drop in some more color down here at the bottom. And there's gonna be a tree on this little land formation. So the tree is gonna be like right here, and it's gonna have yellow and orange leaves. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put some yellow down here too. And that'll look kind of like reflective of what's happening in the tree. Maybe there's some leaves that have fallen on the ground. In fact, let's go to our yellow straight out of the pan, and we'll put just a few little drops of that in here. And then I always like to put a little bit of blue in with my green. So I'm gonna go to my blue here. Just gonna drop some of this in. We're just adding some variation. And how about a little bit more green? I want it to be darker down here at the bottom. You can see that it's kind of like pooling and swirling around, that's fine. Anytime you're working wet on wet, it's gonna do that, and that's fine. Just because you get puddles of paint on your paper doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. There's a big puddle right there, but it's making like magic with the paint. So that's good. I'm happy that that's there. We're gonna leave that there. We're gonna let this dry, and then we'll come back and we'll add our little tree. This is where our stick comes in. So if you don't have a stick, that's okay. You can just use a paintbrush for this, but I want my paints to be nice and wet. I'm just wetting the brown here. And you might not want to like poke directly into your paint using your stick. I could totally understand that. So if you don't want to poke into your paint using your stick, you can just put a nice saturated brown over here somewhere on your palette. And then you might want to dip your stick in some water so that it is a little bit wet when you touch it to the paint. And then we're just going to draw in like a really simple, wonky tree. And the point of the stick is that we are gonna get like a nice crazy tree trunk, branches. I am gonna dip mine directly into the paint. Yeah, so I'm just kind of moving the stick all around. And I'm not really trying to make it like realistic or look a specific way. I'm just letting the stick dictate where the paint goes. So if you feel like you need your trunk to have a little bit more paint, there we go. I think that's it. I think that is the base of my tree. So at this point, we are done with the stick. That's the tree. That's what the tree is gonna look like. And we want this to dry before we add like all of the leaves, because if we put the leaves on there right now, it's gonna run together with all of the brown. But what we can do while this is still wet, if we're careful, is we can add some background trees in here. And the idea with the background trees is just that they're kind of like foggy or misty, like you're not really seeing the details of the trees. You're just seeing sort of the shapes or the shadows of the trees. So I'm gonna move to my smallest brush, which is a size 6. And I'm gonna go back to this, this blue that we mixed up before. And I'm just gonna start adding in those little background trees. So these are gonna be like pine trees or evergreen trees, I guess. What are those called? Those trees. And when I do this, I'm just sort of dotting it in with the brush, and I'm leaving a lot of white space. And you can make it more narrow up at the top and give it a few little defining points, but mostly these are not going to be well-defined trees in our landscape. They're just going to be the idea that this tree is not just out here all by itself, but that there are some other trees back here. So I will tell you with this, I did kind of debate, should I put the background trees in before I did the tree trunk here, or should we do it after? And eventually I decided I wanted to do it in this order, where we put the tree in first and then did the background trees, because I felt like it was easier to get a good framing around our focal point, which is this tree. So that's why I did it in this order. A lot of times you would sort of in a landscape painting work background to foreground. So whatever's farthest away you would paint first, but you know, there are no hard and fast rules here. So we can do whatever we want to do. And this is sort of how I decided to do this one. I am going to take these trees all the way across, as if like this island comes out, but these trees are maybe in the background on another shore behind it somewhere, if that makes sense. I'm varying the heights of the trees so that we get a lot of different levels when we look out here into this distant forest. And I mean, you can see how quickly we did that. Don't overthink it. I know it's really hard. It's really hard not to overthink it, but it's gonna look great. You gotta just trust the process. It will look good. Okay, so now we've gotta let all of this dry, and then we can put the leaves on our tree. Okay, we're ready to do the leaves on the tree, and I'm gonna start with my yellow that I mixed up. I've moved back to my size 8 brush, so this is a slightly bigger brush. And we're gonna sort of use our branches as a guide for where these leaves are gonna go. But you'll notice like I hold the brush more toward the end, and I wanna let it be kind of loose in my hand, because I don't really want to, I don't want to control this too much. I want it to be nice and random. I want there to be a lot of white space in here where the light is shining through the leaves. And holding it at the end is going to give you that sort of looser style, because that's what this painting is. This painting is not like a photorealistic fall tree. It's way more loose than that. So we've got our sort of muted yellow in there, and I'm just dotting it in. And now I think I want to add a little bit of the brighter yellow in here, because I do want some little pockets of brightness in there. So I just took directly from the pan and added that into my muted yellow. And I'm just adding a little bit of that in there. So this is giving us some variation in our leaves. And then we're gonna continue that with adding some of this orange that we mixed up. So dropping a little bit of that orange into those already wet areas, and bringing it out a little bit some too, if you'd like. I like to put these little sort of dots that are not even attached, that look like those little extra leaves that are poking out. Because when you look up at the trees, a lot of the times you can't even see the really small branches. You just see those clusters of leaves. And that's why I like using the stick, because the stick really gives you that sort of randomness that is very hard to achieve on your own with your own human brain, because our brains want to make sense of things and they want to put things in order. So it's nice to have that sort of randomness. All right, I think I want even more of the bright yellow, so I'm going to go straight from the pan and I'm going to just drop in some of this bright yellow in here. I mean, I said it was going to be like muted fall. Did I say it was going to be muted fall colors? It's not. And I mean, I have a hard time with muted, I guess. Muted's not really my vibe, typically. Yeah, so I've added more color in, but it's a good effort. Good effort on the muted. Okay. I mean, you can add as many leaves as you want on your tree. I think I'm pretty happy with my tree. Maybe a few little dots just hanging out here at the edges. Okay, I think the tree looks pretty good. So this just has to dry at this point, and we can go ahead and do the water. And you might be scared of the water, but don't be scared of the water, because the water is actually really, really easy. Because all we're gonna do, I'm going back to my bigger brush. This is my 1-inch brush. Again, if you don't have a 1-inch brush, that's okay. Just use what you have. And we're gonna just start putting water down here. And we're gonna go side to side here and just wet this whole area up to our land mass. And I'm gonna switch back to my smaller brush. This is my size 8 that I was using on the leaves. I'm gonna go back to these little puddles, and I'm just gonna start dropping in some color down here into the water. And this is gonna be like the reflection from this tree, right? So I'm just kind of, I'm not really trying to mirror. You could look at it and try to like reverse it and mirror it. But really, if you just add some color down here into the water, it's gonna look like the reflection, right? So I did some yellow, and now I'm just gonna add a little bit of this orange in here, because we do have orange up in the tree. And I want just a little bit of that orange. Okay, so not so much paint. If you've got too much, you can dry off your brush and you can kind of slurp up a little bit of that paint. But what I'm gonna have you do next is take your brush, your bigger brush, make sure it's nice and clean. And we're just gonna kind of swipe super lightly across. And this is gonna give that sort of watery effect. Now I'm drying off the brush as I go. And now we've got the reflection of our little tree down here. So now we can go back to our blue. May need to mix up another around here real quick. So I've got that really dark blue and adding just a little bit of orange into it. Okay, and then we're gonna just start, whoa, too dark, abort. Okay, I'm just adding some water to smooth that out. That was a bit too dark for what I wanted to do. So now we're just gonna kind of swipe this in around the color that we created. You can leave some white space in here, and that will kind of look like reflections in the water. And I try not to go too far into my yellow and orange, just a hint of this blue in there. Because if you mix it up too much, you're gonna end up with a bunch of green in your water, and that may not be exactly what you're going for. Now I'm gonna add just a few more little streaks in here, just to give it a little bit more depth. All right. That is looking pretty good. All right, so we've got our little reflection in there. I think I'm just gonna put a couple little lines in here with the blue to make it look like ripples in the water. Totally optional choice there. Okay, let's let this dry and then we'll come back for one final step. Okay, the last thing I want to do is I want to just darken up the shoreline just a little bit. So I'm gonna go, you can go to your black, or if you've got Payne's gray, any kind of like really dark color. And we're just gonna add just a little bit down here. At the water line. So I'm just using the very tip of the brush and pulling across. Maybe we bring this out just a little bit. And then I think the other thing I want to do is just add a little bit more color in here underneath. I'm going to add some orange too, because we do have some orange going on in there. Just a little bit more color where it's, you know, like the leaves have fallen down here. In fact, I'm gonna even grab a little bit from my pans, that orange. Just rinsing off my brush. I'm gonna smooth this out a little bit. This one comes together really fast, but it teaches you a lot of different techniques. And just a reminder that you do not have to do what I do just because I'm showing you how to do it this way. You can put in as many trees as you want. You can make yours look however you want. It's just to give you a starting point. I hope you'll try it your own way.